to Final Frontier News.
Welcome back, everybody, to the relaunched Final Frontier News. My name is Joe Cronin. This is Final Frontier News, here with Dave Rose.
You know, like these stories about celebrities like faking their death but still remaining in the public eye.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like, if somebody's going to fake their death, they're going to try to like stay away from the community and stuff so that people don't recognize who they are. They're not going to stay around, you know, and get attention to them.
Yeah, and it's the other one is that celebrities are replaced by robots or clones and stuff like that.
That is something that requires more in-depth discussion because there is some truth to that, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. There's different layers. There's either mind control, celebrities under some kind of control. There's celebrities replaced by genetic, whatever, copycats or whatever. Clones is the word I'm looking for. Robots, I don't know about robots. I'm not really in on that, but it's
no. But once you understand that it's sorry, my phone's being stupid.
Spock.
It's bad. I got the Star Trek sounds on my fucking phone. But once you understand that, like Zuckerberg, for example, he is an organic android. He's an automaton. So, like, yeah, he's got flesh around him and he looks human, but he's not. And the same thing applies to the Greys and stuff. Like, on the inside, they're actual, like, supposedly they're androids and stuff. But, like, you could still have androids organically. You know, it's just they don't have any souls and they're not human. They just act robots.
Functioning as, like, an organic, like, you think there's nanotechnology in this guy, or you think he's, like, organic but programmed?
They were bred that way. Like, as in, they didn't need any organic, like any nanotechnology. Like, they were bred, and all this information that came out of like what Jones has been saying for years about, like, oh, they're going to be able to grow people in fucking laboratories and stuff. People laughed at them. Well, a few years ago, it came out that they were growing fucking cow fetuses in these, like, plastic bags as a womb, and that's just like what we know. And it took a lot of research to get to that point. So all the mythical stories about Dulce Base, for example, in Nevada, and like S4 and even like Dreamland, whatever, where they say that they were growing these clones. Well, there's a lot more truth to that people understand.
Well, we're finding out about a lot of this stuff because of China, because China doesn't play by the rules. China does whatever the hell they want. They don't care.
Great point.
So, like, everything that they're doing, like, because we do everything they do, and they do everything we do. So, like, when we hear about all the places that they're growing shit there, we know they're doing it. It's proven. We know it. I mean, we say
the difference is, though, like you said, is that they don't follow the same sort of like humanitarian rules that the public demands here in North America. They're like, well, who cares if we're playing God? We're going to do it anyways, and they eventually do these things, which they have no problems publicly admitting and showing evidence of it to say, look how good we are. So they can get away with, I guess, a lot more than people are publicly doing here in North America.
And that's what we're moving towards. This is crazy. Everybody needs to pay attention to what's going on in China. If you don't like the rules on water and food regulation out there, even North Korea, if you really want to get extreme, but more China. If you look at the food safety and everything in that country, and you look at what's going on here, like say like with Flint, Michigan, and their water. So you look at Flint, Michigan's water, and some of the other areas' water, and some of the other things we're doing. We're moving towards that with China, and socially, FDA wise, like, and also even Trump wants to move us more towards China because he wants us on an even playing field. But that comes with, like everything does, a risk or a negative. And that is that, we'll start caring more about money and jobs and profits than we will the health of the people in the country. Because that's what China's doing. They're rogue. They don't have to, like you said, they don't have to worry about. They can get ahead of the game because they don't need to play by any rules.
And on top of that, this actually came out about November 2018, where it was publicly announced, where China is essentially creating what are called CRISPR babies, and essentially it's an acronym.
You know, I think they talked about this today. You're gonna really want to watch the Jones and Rogan interview. They talked about a lot of stuff about China.
I haven't unfortunately been able to watch that because that was really literally breaking today. But I've heard a lot of things, and I'm gonna check it out.
Even though it's like a mind blow because you know at first you're like, oh, I love what Alex is doing, you know, calling out Rogan, and everyone's kind of calling out Rogan now. And by having Alex Jones back on, you know, Rogan kind of shuts up some of the people that were saying like he's working as a government, whatever this and that, and also Alex Jones needs the exposure because he's so destroyed right now through BS. It's not funny that he's destroyed because it's really a scary thing.
That's a good point. Just quickly, that's a good tie-in back to what I was saying about this CRISPR thing. Basically, what it is just a cheap and easy way to deploy a way to genetically modify humans via in vitro fertilization, and to actually genetically modify humans. So, you know, like Rocky IV, for example, where you've got like Drago, who's been like genetically modified to be superior. They're doing that publicly in China right now. And they're looking to utilize all this extra technology to essentially play God and become superhumans.
Right. Yeah, right. That they talked about that. And it's true. It's really is. And what their real reason is. I mean, Alex Alex jumps to us another part of that. He believes that some of the people that are involved in doing this are in contact with interdimensional aliens, and that's how they know to do this and all these other things. I mean, that's the kind of the leap that is I'm not really sure about, but he does leap to that.
Well, that's an interesting thing that you have to say that, because that is sort of a theme that continues to be brought up over and over again. If we take a look at the Nazis back in the 1930s, there was certain secret societies, if you wish to call them that, the Vril group, the Tool group, which were channeling supposed beings. Even Aleister Crowley in the 30s, channeling beings that were presenting information to them that they then in turn made into or manifested into reality here in our plane of existence. So as outlandish as it might sound, there's probably a lot more truth to that people understand. And what people get confused a lot about is the alien issue isn't necessarily an extraterrestrial presence, but is more probably an interdimensional one.
Yeah, and the other thing about that is every time, why were the Nazis so obsessed with this future technology and these other things? And if you were a powerful person and you were contacted by something like this, or you found out about interdimensional beings or something like that, you know, you would start working towards that. And there's also another rumor that people say that one of the reasons why they contact anybody and they start these movements to have us essentially do these things, because they say, why do we need to do these things if they're interdimensional and they're superior and stuff? And one of the things is they're not that much more superior, but they are aware of the dimensions and things like that. And unless we open the door or create the technology on our end, they can't really get through to stabilize the connection, if that makes any sense. And
exactly,
that's crazy.
And this has been verified again with all these secret societies and stuff so many times over, is that they might be able to manifest temporarily in this existence, but there's no permanent anchor for them to establish themselves. That's why they need to be able to channel and inhabit a body, for example. Again, like exorcisms are sort of to remove these sorts of demons. But again, this is something that all these different cultures, all these different religions talk about over and over again through thousands of years, is that they need this sort of anchor. And if you take a look at all the developments, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, in regards to cybernetics and androids and robots, like there's a company called Boston Dynamics who's now created a sort of like dog-like robot that can jump around anything, like has no cables attached, can utilize weapons. There's a humanoid model that can jump off walls and stuff. And a lot of people, including Alex Jones, have talked about the possibility that what the elitists, what the technocrats, those that value technology over everything else, are trying to do is establish again, some sort of being device that these spirits, these interdimensional beings, can then inhabit. And again, there's a lot of coincidence here that make you wonder, because again, why have we advanced so quickly in these sorts of developments? And when you consider that these sorts of discussions have been had in the past about these interdimensional beings, there's a lot that seems to be lining up here.
My father taught one of the guys, the men that owns that company, Boston Dynamics. It's out of Waltham, Mass. And my dad worked at Raytheon and Calcomp, which is another engineering electronics company, because he would work on panels and boards and stuff like that, and circuitry that spoke to the computer's mainframes and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny you mentioned that. But it's, well, here's the other thing too. We don't know with ghost stories, with hauntings and everything. It would all really start to make sense, when you look at that interdimensional travel and things like that. And with robots, that's how you would travel interdimensionally for us. That could be why you see those, fast-moving discs in the air and things like that the Army and the Air Force have released footage of. No longer a what if and maybe this happens and what is, it's what is that? It happened. And it's all about vibrations and wavelengths. I have multiple different theories about like what could be going on, whether it's interdimensional, whether it's plane of existence. So like a different dimension. Like I always talked about this before, like we graduate to different dimensions, but that may be wrong. It may be how you live your life could depend on whether you graduate to a new dimension or not. That would be more of a sort of
well, that's one and the same, I think, because again, if you're living a life of goodness, your vibration is higher, and if you're living a life of evil, your vibration is lower. So that defines how you're living your life and how you would then sort of integrate into the next iteration of.
You think that's
existence.
how people simplified it into heaven and hell, up and down? Like we're right now, we're allegedly in the third dimension right now. Allegedly, according to whatever you want to believe. And this doesn't mean it's any fact. It's very vague information. But if we're in the third dimension and the second dimension is worse and the first dimension, and what's that like? And so is that where they say hell? Because you're going down, you go up to the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension, you live a much better, prosperous life. Or are the dimensions completely random and there's just millions of dimensions? And are we really in a galaxy right now? Or are we in a dimension? That's another crazy question.
Well, we're currently living in 4 dimensions, because not only the 3 dimensions that we exist in right now, but that's just one static moment in what we perceive as linear time, which is another debate. But 4 dimensions requires space-time. So we're moving in that. So that's where we currently are. But there are at least 12 more dimensions that we supposedly inhabit the same space of, and there's potentially many, many more that we are not aware of. The math just backs it up.
I want to say hey to everybody, because I hit the record button because me and Dave just started talking immediately and didn't really get into an intro, but I want to say welcome back to Dave, and he probably listens to a lot of my shows and has a million things he wants to say about it and then can never get it out. You're probably watching the shows and you're like, I don't know, just picture you sitting there thinking about or like you have some information to add that you can't quite add because it's already been done. But speaking of I want to talk about psyops real quick, and not the way you think I want to talk about them. I want to talk about them more is with Alex Jones, because with him, he gets so erratic and crazy, and he does use things as a business. He's a salesman, clearly. But at the same time, I think he really does care. because I think if he didn't care, if Alex Jones was more a salesman and more worried about only selling and making money and all these things, Alex Jones would have never gone in on some of the things he's gone in on, and he really would have steered clear on some things, to keep his profits alive and to not offend people and things like that. That's why I really think he just can't help himself. He just believes, he just sputters out all the stuff he can, and he spins everything he can, even if it's a small, tiny, irrational sort of conspiracy theory. If there's any little bit of a truth to it, he'll basically spin it as far as he can. And
are you describing Alex Jones or me?
I'm describing Alex Jones, yeah, but you're more collected. But Alex Jones is more like, he's off the handle. He has great. You have.
But you're right. He is a great salesman, because just that, going off the handle, does attract individuals that want to see that sort of reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. When you start to see stuff go wrong I'm starting to get this way because of this guy. Because I'm seeing what he said this stuff was going to happen, and it happened. First you look at him and you're like, this guy's crazy, whatever, whatever, this isn't going to happen. And then little things start happening that he's right about. And even though he's shooting for like maybe 20%, he might be shooting 20% accurate. But the stuff that he's 20% accurate about is shit that nobody else would have ever brought up or wouldn't have fought for, and you wouldn't even known about. So you accept some of the craziness because it's worth it. It's worth it to grab the duffel bag and throw it all over the floor and see if there's a gold bar in it, rather than slowly reach in and pull things out one at a time, and then whatever. He just throws it out there, and sure, there might be a couple like dildos in there that you didn't want your family members to see, but you get the gold bar. Psyop against, I don't know what I just said. Psyop against Alex Jones. He's his own psyop, because he says so many things that are real, but then he says a couple things that are whacked out, and they go after him for that. And even the Sandy Hook stuff, right? I don't think he apologized for this, by the way, on Rogan a bunch, and said he never said that. That didn't happen. It's real. All these things. Even I think, yes, I believe Sandy Hook is real, but was there something else nefarious about it, possibly, that triggered the kid, that was set up, that was, or that was just allowed to happen? Like, let's say the FBI and the CIA or somebody around the country, they know potential individuals who are at risk to go off. And these people because the police department has been, there are people that have mental issues that the police department has been notified about 20 times, right? So at that point, it's easy to start identifying a guy that, listen, this guy might do something. He's whacked out and he's got weapons. We know he's got weapons. He's been police called 20 times. FBI knows about it. What do? Nothing. So I myself don't think there were actors necessarily. Not that hasn't happened. It can and does. But, I think the kids that died are real. I think people really got shot and it's terrible. But I wonder about the people behind the scenes that allowed it to happen. Like, you see guys rolling up on a bank to rob a bank, and the FBI says, you know what? Let's let them rob this bank, because after this, we'll be able to implement all these new laws for banks and maybe a tax and make some money. It's just, that's a small idea of it, but that is what essentially they're doing. Like, hey, we can disarm the public. If we let a few of these things happen some more everywhere, we can start to push to disarm the public. And that's just what it feels weird like that, because why did the Tsarnaev brothers or whatever bomb in Boston? The FBI was watching them at one point. They were told about them by the Russian government.
It wasn't the Tsarnaev brothers. It was Kraft contractors.
What does that mean?
It means that it was a false. Actually, I can't say that word on this channel. It was a.
It was a ruse?
Cloth thing.
Are you trying to say the FF? The false something?
Yep.
Are you worried? Yep. Are we really worried about it saying? I've said that a bunch on my other shows.
I made a video and I said that word, and the channel got basically banned.
Your channel got banned, or did you?
I said the words and it got banned. It got literally banned from live streaming.
My God, you know what? That brings me to let's transition into what I told you about.
Oh yeah, and that's a great transition.
It's huge. This is absolutely absurd. YouTube is, and I saw these reports, and it's treated as a positive thing, and people are like applauding it. They're saying YouTube is doing their best to censor and to not promote conspiracy channels and conspiracy videos. And I don't understand that, because what people don't understand is several conspiracies are real. They're true. That's why they happen. Just because a lot of people have a lot of ideas about a lot of ones that aren't true. And the number one culprit, I believe one of the biggest reasons that they're using it as the excuse is flat Earth. They're using flat Earth mostly as the excuse for why they're censoring YouTube videos. And are you kidding me? So if somebody believes that the Earth is flat or is wondering about the flat Earth stuff, it will be tough for them to find a video about it. What is the concern?
More importantly, what does that say of their thoughts of their viewers? They think that they're that stupid that they would believe that, and like there'd be riots and people would like. What do they expect? Like, yeah, okay, they see a video that says the Earth is flat, and then what?
Yeah,
the Earth isn't, like, the world isn't going to end, even if they're reading or listening to wrong information. And then what? It's a total fucking cover, and they recently changed their terms of service again.
Yeah,
specifically referring to this, where and this has been seen with some of the videos that people have tried to put out about Smollett, Jussie Smollett, is that you're not allowed. The same with the Sandy Hook thing. You're not allowed to basically question a victim of one of these sorts of events, or claim that any of the victim's relatives may be an actor. Okay, so that's obviously talking about what we just said, FF, or that they might not be telling the truth. These are the words that they're using in their terms of service. So might not be telling the truth. So hold on, somebody lies, and you say, I've got to speak about that. I'm gonna, say they're not telling the truth. Now, this blanket, vague term that YouTube is using in their terms of service could have not only your video like basically shut down, but your whole channel.
I believe it's the same thing as why some people, and I'm not saying this is true, I'm just saying some people say like, oh, weed weed is illegal because it leads to other drugs, and then now you're on heroin and everything. But no, you wanted to lock up Mexicans and black people. It's the same thing with this. It's, oh, well, the flat earth stuff is taking off so much, and that's misinformation. It's making people dumb, and it's leading them into other conspiracy and alt-right media.
There's the key.
And so that's what they're worried about. Basically they're worried about you becoming woke or waking up. And that's what it is. Your people are waking up, or they're thinking for themselves is the most important thing. It doesn't even matter if you're wrong, because I have seen some flat earth guys who really think that they're right about a lot of things, and they go on with a physicist or somebody like that, and they get destroyed, and they look foolish when they get on there with that person, because mathematics just destroys you. But they do. But here's the thing: even though flat earth, I'm not on board with it yet. God, is it interesting? And the idea that things may be an illusion and stuff like that is really interesting to me, to find out as much as possible. Why don't we have pictures of the satellites? Stuff like that. The photos of Earth that they keep releasing everywhere are digitally enhanced. It's not really the Earth. They can't provide a real picture of Earth. Apparently, there's one from the 70s or something. But
that's where the psyop is basically emanating to create flat Earth, because that, in my opinion, flat Earth is in fact a psyop.
Yes, I think you're right. I think it's totally, because that's what they're using. Now they're saying it like, oh, flat Earth is, because they needed something like a catchphrase, like Donald Trump, make America great again. Well, they needed something that is so retarded that they could say, this
exactly.
You guys can agree, we need to stop these flat Earth videos, right? And everybody says, oh my God, the flat Earth people. Yes, we need to stop that. So
it's good. It's important to mention what you just said, is that it's fascinating. Absolutely. If this reality existed, that we lived on a flat Earth and their explanation actually fit, it would be fascinating. Just like the hollow Earth theory is also fascinating about a mini sun residing within the Earth, and
Right.
that there's surface on. Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. I would love if that existed. But if you start to take a look at reality, it just doesn't work that way. At least with this planet. Is it possible on other planets? Maybe. But what we're seeing right now doesn't fit what they're saying. It's easily disproven,
Right.
in my opinion. I can do that and actually show that evidence. So, but
Well,
again,
they say
at
gravity
least
isn't real. They say gravity isn't real, and it's like,
but
well,
they're not taking into the electric effect, and that's explained a lot with the electric universe
and
theory stuff.
magnetic.
But again, it's like but what you're talking about in regards to YouTube is that, okay, yes, these people are watching flat Earth videos. Oh, and you and I both know they're very hardcore and adamant.
They're
about
impressionable too. These are impressionable people. A lot of them are impressionable people.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're willing to stand up and at least try to pursue that. But
Yeah.
like you said, it opens them up to questioning other events.
Mhm.
And that is what the powers that be fear. That once you start having people start to question anything, they're going to start to question more and more about other events that aren't properly explained.
Right.
The JFK assassination, for example, there's still information that's been classified. Trump did not release all the information that was in the files, unfortunately, and stuff still remains classified. But a lot of the stuff that was revealed included the Warren Commission basically admitting that there was more than two shooters. What does that mean? That it reaches the definition of conspiracy. So the term that the CIA created, conspiracy theorists, to discredit people that question the narrative, now just is laid bare and goes to show that people were right to question it all along, and that this was an attempt to try to get people to stop questioning the narrative, just like what YouTube is doing right now.
Yeah, and they know that YouTube is the top. You know what's weird, Dave, is we predicted this, and I know I did years ago. I don't know a whole lot about a lot of things, but I predicted this years ago on YouTube. I said, when Google started taking over YouTube and everything, and I could see it. I said, do you realize, this was 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago, and I said, do you realize that the TVs, the networks, and the big boys that own everything, they're going to have to come in here at YouTube and do something, because they have to be upset. They're losing amazing amounts of viewership, and it's all going to YouTube. They're going to come after YouTube, or they're going to buy it, or something's going to happen, because they've got to be pissed. These TV networks have to be angry. And I kind of mentioned that. And then the adpocalypse happened. And when that happened, I was like, oh my God, it's finally happening. Because it made no sense why they got so mad and why they went after PewDiePie. They were waiting to go after PewDiePie because he's the biggest YouTuber, and they could say he's anti-Semitic, he's against Jews, or he's racist. They did that, and then all the ad people pulled out. But it's like the ad revenue pulled out, but they did it on purpose. They left on purpose to get either, number one, better rates. Number two, the TV stations wanted that to happen, and all the owners wanted that to happen. So they suffocated YouTubers. They made behind-the-scenes backdoor deals with YouTube. So normal channels like mine or somebody else with 200,000, 100,000, 50,000 subs, 10,000 subs, 5,000 subs, in the small, anybody out there with 500 subs for sure, so that you don't get the ad revenue you used to get. All those companies mostly came back to YouTube, but they came back in special deals. That's why you hear about like Philip DeFranco and all these other people with a different tier system of ads. They're getting paid a ton of money for ads. Like if I make 1 cent if one person watches my video, I might make 1 cent or less. And Philip DeFranco, though, might make 8 cents to 15 cents on one view. So like he's getting a different percentage and a different ad rate. And it's like this was all, I believe, designed by them and by everybody and by YouTube, so that they could control what we're saying here. Because now it's not about money. It's not about profit. YouTube doesn't make any money. Look at their profit. They almost make no money. They've lost money before. They've made a little bit of money. This is not about money for YouTube itself. For the ad revenue and the companies it is. But for YouTube, it's not. They're about controlling the narrative. They're so important. They're probably making, actually, you know what, Dave? They're probably making money that we don't know about from outside sources, similar to.
They're owned by Google, and Alphabet Incorporated, which owns them all, is feeding the money. But look what happened with YouTube. What was it? Rewind.
Right. Oh God, yeah. Look at that. Everybody just the worst, most disliked video in history. All right, let's move away from the whole conspiracy of YouTube, because I could do an hour on that. That to me is insane, and we'll get into more. We're kind of like getting back into the swing of things with this episode. I feel like
there's so much to cover. I mean, even in this last month alone, I've got like 5 space stories ready to go just to discuss. What we've missed. And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much to discuss.
So let me ask you about this, because this is why I feel like kind of being erratic and going all over the place, and then eventually we'll settle down with maybe some more topics or focus on one other thing, or I'll have you guys maybe actually even suggest things to us as well, and maybe Dave will bring one thing, I'll bring one thing, and then you guys can add something, and we'll do a 3-part episode in the future or something like that. There's plenty of stuff to do. Dave's been chasing me for weeks. I'm dead serious now. I'm way more settled. I'm ready to go with recording with Dave. Me and Leah was supposed to record tonight. We couldn't even get that in. I'm going to do it after out of nowhere tonight. Nobody cares. Listen to this podcast. What I'm talking about, though. So let me move on to one more. What do you think about I have an idea. Well, let me ask you first. Brie Larson. What do you think about Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, and what she said about white men and the backtracking and Rotten Tomatoes? Are you aware of all this?
It's heading to be a major train wreck for Marvel and for Disney. All because this one white bitch decided to fucking speak her mind.
You know, and I don't mind people speaking their mind. She can say whatever she wants, but it is kind of, I would never say, this is stuff I used to say in my like adolescence, or like even years ago on YouTube. I'm not above saying like, I don't really care what the rich white guy says, to be honest. I've said snarky things like that myself. The problem is, that was years ago when kind of people didn't care and I was being a smart ass about things. But nowadays, the way people have this sort of negativity, it's more visceral now. It's more evil. It's more mean-spirited. Years ago, it was kind of a joke, but sort of serious. But now it's like, that's a real fucked up thing to say. And even, I got to tell you, man, what makes me happy about humanity, even though Brie Larson chooses to be a narrow-minded, misfit, the amount of black people that are in the comments below those videos, the amount of black people that are saying, when are these women going to stop bashing white dudes? Like, seriously, I get it and everything. I'm a black guy, but I've kind of had about enough of this. Black guys, black women, they're in the comments.
When you get black guys like coming out and saying that, like, you've already known that you've pushed that SJW envelope beyond what you could pay back.
I mean, there's some
fuck themselves.
There's some black guys that, of course, are like, fuck yeah, like, yeah, fuck white people. But that's only like 10%. Most of them are trolls. Some of them are even white people. But when you see the amount of black people that I see, and I get messages from black guys all the time, they're like, dude, don't listen to this shit, bro. Like, nobody really thinks this way. They think these people are crazy. And so, like, that does make me smile that, like, people know that this is BS. You don't come out and say, I don't need a black guy telling me what to do, or I don't need a white, what are you talking about? Like,
we've gotten to the point where the media or even these stars think that they can double down and just speak this nonsense, and that nobody's going to call them up on that shit. And in this day and age where you can like spread that in Twitter like fire, people are going to start to question and be like, we've seen CNN, we've seen BuzzFeed, we've seen all these idiots who just don't check the facts. And this looks like yet another example, and we see through it. I mean, you can't blame anyone for...
The sick thing is that they're using the virtue signal. This is fake. She doesn't care about anybody, really. She just cares about coming off virtuous. That's all she cares about. It's a sick thing.
No, but we've seen that with all these Hollywood types, and these are millionaires that people are paying to go watch.
Right. They're
We
fakers.
we don't want their political opinions. We just want to see them do their craft and enjoy like a moment away from reality.
Yeah.
But when they decide to interject themselves and start to claim this moral high ground, even with like Ellen Page the other day on,
oh my God, I almost threw up.
It's
I can't even watch her. There's some new show Leah was watching the other night, and she was like, "You got to watch this with me." And then
the Academy, I believe, or something Academy.
It's
yeah,
probably
that.
Oh God, dude, they're all the people on there are SJW. So now I couldn't even watch it because I said, "Oh God, all three of the people on my screen right now are all just disgusting, like scumbags." And maybe I'm too mean to her. I mean, she was really annoying. Maybe her heart's in the right place because it might be because she is a lesbian. So her heart,
because she's imagining things and she's using she again, like they're like sort of construing where Trump and Pence are responsible for all these sorts of things. And even if Smollett committed this hate crime against himself, like a fake crime,
yeah,
they're still responsible for it. It's like, yeah, Trump is just so much invested in Smollett's head that he's going to hurt himself because Trump has so much power over him. Like, think of the logic that you have to go through. And again, the awkwardness of that interview, her shrilly statements, it just goes to show that this woman, unfortunately, is mentally ill. And
I think Stephen Colbert's mentally ill. I think he's a sick weirdo.
Unfortunately, all of them have, like all these late night hosts, is sort of like, again, you see the same joke on every single show. Mm-hmm. Oh, Donald Trump is bad. Ha ha ha. It's like, do something new, like
it's
talk
weird.
about something different. No, it's always the same thing. They always have the same jokes, and they're all basically the same. They're writing from the same source. It's kind of sad because at one point, late night shows would shit on everyone. It would be a lot less political and just a lot more enjoyable, but we don't see that. We haven't seen that for a long time.
I don't know what's going on with it, man. It's just everything is about Trump, and it's like, dude, I'm trying to get away from this, and everything is about Trump. I mean, yeah, Johnny Carson and Leno would come out, and they might make one or two jokes about the president back in the day. They'd be like, well, the president opened up his thing today, and this happened, and then they move on. But yeah, it's literally like reminding me every second that Donald Trump's the president, and we're angry. And I'm like, oh my God, there is so much actual stuff to be angry at Trump about. Like, I mean, there's a lot of things to like about him, but there's a lot of things to actually be mad about with him. And they don't touch on any of that. They just go for propaganda. And that's the thing. And then you say, like, why are they attacking Trump? And then people are like, oh, you're a Trump supporter? It's like, no. But, that's the problem, is you're not allowed to have your own thoughts. That's what this whole thing, the theme of this show so far we're talking about. You're not allowed to have your own thoughts. Nobody can believe that I think that a lot of Trump's stuff is good and a lot of stuff is bad. And nobody can believe that. They can't believe. Now, you're a Trump supporter or you're not. And they're crazy. And like, if I had a red hat on that said I like cock, like, I might get beaten up because they thought it was a MAGA hat. It's like, why would that happen? Why should that happen? So they'll say that, well, that's the new Nazi flag or whatever. Well, I'm saying that, well, maybe you just wanted a reason to hurt somebody. Because I don't know other reason why you would do that. And coming, I'm blown away.
It's rules for thee and not for me. Because basically, if they were to wear a shirt that had like a picture of Fidel Castro shooting somebody in the head during the revolution,
they probably would sell that.
Pictures of that.
They'd probably sell that at Hot Topic.
Exactly, but if you were to even question them, be like, hey, this is free speech. But because you're wearing a red hat, they don't even have to check what it says. Oh, that must be some sort of MAGA supporter. Got to hit him.
But even if it is, that's how scary things are. Is everybody needs to stop and realize. Do you know how scary that is? Like, Donald Trump.
Not everyone, dude.
Not everyone, but a lot of people.
It's the left that has to stop, because again, the right isn't doing this. The right is going to marches and stuff, holding signs, and they're the ones that are getting assaulted. But the left.
Well, I say they are. I'd say they are too, but it's probably 80-20. It's 80-20. I've seen a little bit, but it is 80-20. 80 on the left, 20 on the right. Most people,
Come on. There's that video where that guy with the leftist with the baton goes and tries to hit the guy. He blocks it. He gives him a great right hook.
Uh-huh.
This guy falls like a fucking pack of,
Oh, that's awesome.
straw.
No, I love it.
And
yeah, the guy
but like
deserved
the
it.
thing is though, that's an example where the left is coming out with weapons
Yeah.
and the right isn't.
Yes, it's hilarious. The guy with the baton and helmet, like you see these guys getting beat up. That's why they have batons and helmets, because they don't know how to fight. Now you're finally starting to see some of the people on the right like throw helmets on and whatever. But you saw a guy the other day knock out a kid on campus who was a Trump supporter. Now the Trump supporter was actually more like of a smaller guy, and this big muscly liberal dude actually beat the crap out of him. But
the memes, everyone is comparing the guy to Principal from South Park. What's it called? Principal
McVicker. Oh no, McVicker's Beavis and Butthead. Skinner.
No, from South
Park.
Principal.
I don't remember.
Principal correctness or whatever. Like Principal PC.
Right.
And basically he looks almost identical to the guy, and it's the exact same sort of argument. It's like, you can't say these words and you can't assault people with your thoughts and stuff, and it's insanity that, again, this guy was doing nothing. He did nothing wrong, and this hater just decided to come and physically assault him.
God.
But if the roles were reversed,
yeah,
this would be national headlines.
Yeah, it would be.
Again,
I mean, a guy looked at an Indian who walked up to him, and it became he's a racist. So I mean, like, look what.
It's become so evident right now that there's so many people that are flocking away from the Democratic Party. Whether or not they're joining the Republican Party is a different issue, and that party has its problems. But like, people are just waking up to the fact that the media doesn't like you. They hate you. They're going to tell you anything just so that they can sell subscribers or whatever.
Yeah.
And these activists, leftists, are basically trying to incite violence, because then if they were attacked by someone on the right, they can then point their finger and say, look, we were right all along. Yeah, we instigated them for fucking ever and tried to get them to act violent. But right this instant, this one person, decided to defend themselves. So now we have to enact these laws to take away any rights of people that disagree with what the Democratic Party believe. They're already trying to put legislation together that basically says, this is the whole thing with the Kamala Harris and Jussie Smollett connection, is that the lynching bill that she was trying to put forward, that he tried to push forward with his hoax, is basically saying that they're trying to, if they classify you as a white supremacist, whatever that's supposed to mean, then you cannot form in public and have a protest or hold a sign or anything like that. And you know what? The KKK, for example, with their public marches and stuff.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree that they should be able to do that in public. Not because I support the KKK, but because I want everyone to be able to see who your enemy is. But again, you got to understand that we live in a society where if we are supposed to be the better people, they got to be able to carry out the free speech with no violence put on them, as long as they're not putting any violence on us.
Yeah.
I might not agree with their message, but let them march. I want to see their faces. I want to see who supports this ideal, so I know who not to interact with in the future.
Would you agree with you say see their faces? Would you agree with, because remember they were attacked years ago, they were stabbed and stuff like that. We didn't agree with that, even though we think the KKK is horrible and retarded, everything else. But they were stabbed, and it was like, well, why would you go to that level? Maybe some of these guys will wake up, and in a couple of years they won't be in the KKK.
Exactly. But
what do you think about? But what do you think about a photo of them and then going to get them publicly removed or figured out where they work and stuff like that?
No. See, the doxing thing is just taking things to a next level. It's if I know that you run a repair shop and you're a member of the KKK, I'm not going to deal with you. But I don't think that these idiots should be publishing your personal address on the internet, where now some psycho is going to go visit you and shoot your family up because of what you believe in, no matter how wrong it is. Did you take any violence out on somebody? No, you didn't break any laws. So therefore, you should be able to believe whatever it is that you want to believe, no matter how wrong it is. As long as you are, within the law, not hurting anybody, believe whatever you want to, but to give somebody, your address, we're a crazy person. When we've seen this on the internet, they'll go to your house and firebomb you or leave you a threatening message or something. That's not right.
Look at just if everybody out there understood, these are just words, or they're just beliefs. Like, they can't hurt you until they can hurt you, but they can't hurt you right now, and most of the beliefs go away for the most part. And
I have a feeling I'm gonna get shit on for what I just said. Dave Rose defended the KKK.
No, I mean, I agree. I agreed with you. I don't like the KKK. I hate the group. Is ridiculous. Is garbage. It's all a bunch of idiots hating on people, and that's all it is. And that's why I like ignoring them. I don't like talking about them because for the last 20 years it's felt.
But if they can't go out and say what they want to say or believe what they want to believe, then what right do we have to do the same?
No, that's what I agree.
No, I have to be equals as long as we're obeying the law.
Yeah, I don't think we should be able to. We can't take away their rights. They have free rights to be mean and evil with words if they want to be. Or
you have a right to hate whoever you want to. I totally believe that, even if you're wrong.
Yeah.
Again, you have a right to have your opinion, even if it's wrong, because again, opinions can be wrong. That's just a fact. It's not a popular fact, but the fact is, you can have an opinion. It can be wrong. But the great thing about humanity is that we can learn from our mistakes. We can change. A lot of these people in the KKK have come out and said, you know what, I used to think that, and I just realized that it was totally wrong. And, it's just, we have to have more faith in our humanity if we want to ever reach the stars.
And they, speaking of that, on Star Trek, we played the clip the other day of Lincoln in this funny clip. But listen.
Oh my God, I don't remember that episode, and I recently went on an old on a Star Trek binge with the original series, but I do not remember that line. Maybe it was edited from my version, but wow.
Listen to Uhura's response, everybody, because that is the answer to all of this. Listen to this. Lincoln essentially calls her the N-word. Obviously, it sounds like they didn't want to say that on TV. So he calls her a negress, but they essentially answer all of the hate and issues that people have with Uhura's response. Great.
Excuse me, Captain Kirk.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Scott.
What a charming negress. Oh, forgive me, my dear. I know that in my time some use that term as a description of property.
But why should I object to that term, sir? You see, in our century, we've learned not to fear words.
That's amazing.
It's actually incredibly powerful, and that's what struck me from when you aired that on that episode, because Gene Roddenberry definitely was a visionary when it came to this.
Pussy.
And again, like, he was able to foresee all these different things, and it translated in these shows, and specifically in that line,
right, where
it's like we're so far advanced where we don't worry about these words. Like, we're beyond that. We look to the future to better ourselves. We don't worry about some words that have no meaning if we don't give them, power for that.
Right. Exactly right. If you don't give it power, that's the amazing thing. Let them march. Let them do whatever, as long as they're not hurting anybody. And yeah, they're just words. And that's the thing we're arguing about. We're arguing about just a theory. A theory of flat Earth they're trying to ban that on YouTube. Why? What are you afraid of? All you're doing is giving power to these people and giving power to Alex Jones, because everything they said, when you said it was crazy, just like even Leah said that. She's like, he'll never get banned. He's just making all this stuff up.
Well,
5 months later, he's banned. And he's banned from PayPal. And everybody out there who thinks that this is just Alex, there's already a couple other guys that are in the same situation who are on a smaller level than the InfoWars. And it is an InfoWar now. It is an information war. That name is unbelievably accurate. And it perfectly makes sense with what's going on right now, even as ridiculous as he is. Even if you hate Alex Jones, like, you hate his guts, if you hate the hell out of him, you hate InfoWars, you hate Alex Jones, whatever, if you're not out there thinking that even though I hate him, he should be allowed to say what he wants and have a show, and he should be allowed to make commerce just like anybody else, if you're not out there defending him, then I'm very scared for everybody else in the future, because it starts with him, and then it moves to the next person, and then the next person, and then we end up like China, which, once again, where everything is reflecting and mirroring China. And our internet's going that way too.
And they have their social credit system.
Oh my
now.
God, that the Orville made an episode about basically, and it's happening.
Yes, that was actually a great episode.
It's
perfectly encapsulated it.
It's unbelievable. Can you imagine can you imagine all the dumb things that anybody listening that you've done in the past? Like when you were 13, 15, 18, and 20. The things that you did that, and at some point you either grew, your mind grew, you felt bad about it, you changed as a person because of it. Can you imagine changing as a person after something maybe kind of crappy you did when you were 14 and 15? Maybe you bullied somebody. And then when you were 19, you were like, that was really bad. I'm never going to do that again. And you change as a person, but then somebody pulls up the videotape or the digital video of you from back when you were 13 or 14, saying some evil shit to somebody and pushing them or something. And now when you're 25 years old, after you've grown, you've even done things in your life to make up for it because you felt the guilt of it, and you changed as a person, and you were, I don't know what the word is, not vindicated, but well, whatever the case is, that you kind of redeemed yourself in a way, and now you do things a whole different way. And for that to come back and hurt you, and for people to then just jump on you and bully you and everything, and maybe some people would say, good, they deserved it, like after what they did. But it's like you're basically saying, just always be a bad person and just always be shitty, because no matter what, if you did that, it's going to come back and get you anyway. So just never grow as a person, because if anyone ever finds that, you will be publicly shamed, beaten, or have your PayPal taken away, your MasterCard taken away, your job lost from you. And maybe it's 20 years later, and you're a great person who gives to charities everywhere now, and you have 4 kids and a wife and whatever. It's Scrooge at the end. It's like at the end of Scrooge, he's like, "Hey, go buy me a turkey, young man," or whatever. And then can you imagine, like 3 years later, like people being like, "You remember that Scrooge guy? Well, 8 years ago he did this. Really, what a piece of garbage." So they all go down to Scrooge's place and they burn it down. They burn down his place, and he doesn't have business anymore. And then he, like, you know what I mean? And then all the money maybe he was giving to charities and stuff, that goes away now. And maybe he had a wife, and now they lose their house and stuff. And it's like you ruined this person who grew. You ruined somebody who had a had a thought, had a change. Something happened to them that was good, and now you're the bad guy. It's just weird. That's sort of what we're doing right now. And I get it. Some people can't change. Like, this is why people, it's weird. Some of these same people that want to defend sex offenders, like, 10 years later, they changed. Those are the same people that want to attack people for saying a bad word 15 years ago. So, a guy rapes 4 kids, and then he goes to jail, gets out, rapes another kid again, and now they're like, well, 10 years rehabilitation, he can get out. We shouldn't leave him in jail. They're defending that stuff, but then they're the ones that jump on the bandwagon for, oh, God, this guy said a bad word 15 years ago. And it's like, wow, the thinking behind that is crazy to me.
It's mental gymnastics.
And I just really went off there. One last thing, let's tie it all together with, what do you think about this? We go into the flat Earth. One of the reasons why people think the flat Earth is because we can't get past the outer atmosphere. There's what's it called? A radon shield or something? Else.
You've got the Van Allen radiation belts. That's basically 3 different rings that cover our Earth in a donut shape almost. And you have other radiation that's basically inhabited in that area and received if you were to go past it.
NASA has admitted to deleting all the footage, all the telemetry, everything. We don't know how to go to the moon. That's what they've said. That is on video and on audio. We don't know how to go back to the moon with people. We don't do it. Like, eliminate all the goofy stuff. The flag on the moon, can we get out the atmosphere? Is there whatever? We never went back. It makes 0 sense to me. I mean, 0 sense to me. Whether it's we found something we can't tell people about, we can't do it, we faked it, we lied about some of it, whatever. Something is going on, no matter what.
People who respond to that question would be like, oh, well, there's no reason to go back, there's no need. So explain to me why it is that we've recently had India, China, Israel send landers to the moon to start to uh, provide like new information.
Right.
Why is it that it's been announced that the regolith on the moon has a ton of helium-3, which would allow for a right now theoretical fusion reactor to utilize that in anything really. So okay, there's nothing to go back to the moon for. That's why we're going to Mars, but yet all these industries are now going to, even Japan landed on the moon. So which one is it? Like, you got to get your story straight. It becomes very clear that the moon is a strategic location, and this was laid out in the 50s, basically right after the World War II. So it's understood that the moon is definitely somewhere that we want to be. It helps us, if we were to make bases on there, construct vehicles that don't take as much fuel to get further out into the solar system rather than launching them within the current atmosphere. So
why do we lie about this? I mean, essentially,
that's the key. That's the key. Why is it that they would go through so much effort to hoax certain aspects of the space system? The problem is people are too generalized when they say, oh, did they fake the moon landings?
Right.
That's not the question you need to be asking.
Way more complicated.
It's way more complicated. Why do we see the discrepancies in the Apollo project compared to what about all this technology that we know existed at this time that would have allowed them to reach the moon? And what about all these supposed conspiracy theories that say that we reached the moon in the 50s utilizing basically old German technology from World War II?
Right.
With all these discs and flying saucers and stuff. So you've got the public version and the private version. So it makes a lot of sense that if you were to keep a public space program that thinks that there's nothing on the moon, it'll keep people away from questioning what is it that we could be benefiting if we were active on the moon, which kind of appears like we may have been.
And von Braun and all the German scientists that came over here, just very weird. You look at all that stuff, it's like we took these evil people and it became like a draft after the World War II. Who can get the
Project Overcast, Project Paperclip, and basically all these German scientists were brought over to the States and set up in Huntsville, Alabama. And they worked with all these different organizations to fund NASA, or to create NASA, which was NACA at that point, and to start to develop their rocket systems, which they actually were under orders from higher ups, including the president. They were sabotaging to create a missile gap between the Russians and the Americans, so that at the point where the missile gap was acknowledged by the public, the military-industrial complex, which is what Eisenhower warned against, got all this money to start developing all these weapons that they already had the technology for. So now you have an extra amount of money that they had available. That's how the secret space program and the black projects really got started, is this extra money that came around was able to be funneled into these secret programs. So if, for example, you decide to fake the Apollo space program, not fake the moon landings, fake the Apollo space program by filming things to make it look like you landed on the moon, well, it's a lot cheaper than actually going there.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that extra money? That's what the black programs are about.
And that's the future funding that they got too. That's crazy. And we'll get more into that in the future, I guess. And it's just something doesn't seem right for sure. Is there anything else you wanted to mention? About 5 minutes left if we want.
Well, I wanted to thank you for having me back here on Final Frontier News. We've always had some great discussions. There's always so much to talk about, and you have some great topics that you bring up and some great ideas as well in regards to these things. And it makes me think about all the great possibilities that exist in this reality. And we definitely live in an amazing reality. Pros and cons. It's just, wow.
Yeah, I really want to. Next time we'll probably try to get into ancient history or something too. We know we want to talk about that. That's very interesting to me as always too, because I feel like our history is a game of telephone, except we only know about the last 2 people who got it whispered to them, and it's the 6 people before that we're missing.
That's a great analogy. That's an absolute great analogy, because we have been on this planet for so long, according to mainstream science, and we have so little on the record as to what we've actually accomplished. And then when you actually realize that we've been on this planet much longer than what mainstream science decides to tell us, you realize that there's so much missing to human history. But these things, this information is embedded in all these great structures around the world, like the Great Pyramids, like these structures at Tiwanakan, Lake Titicaca, in Siberia, the Doloms in Caucasia. There's so many different things on this planet, Stonehenge, that basically tell us about our past. And all we have to do is decode the secrets that lie within those structures.
And who knows what lies under the ocean and in Antarctica. Guys,
considering
thanks.
the fact that we've actually seen a lot of ocean rise after the last ice age, we know for a fact that there's tons under the waters that we cannot see right now that further tell about our ancient history.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. More to come. Thanks.